Anybody play guitar? Other musical instruments? Other stuff? Okay, cool. Yeah, you're gonna hate this. So, so first up, I got a few minutes to kill, so I'm gonna play with this thing. Has anyone seen one of these? I need to do a sound check. So let's see. Let's see if that's loud enough. All right. Here we go. So basically, it's a synth. You got a little ribbon thing here, and then you got a drum machine. Don't even need to know music. You can be Skrillex. Okay, wait, and then just want to make sure the guitar works. That's pretty okay. I got these at that supermarket near the place, so I think they're like $240. I think I got ripped off. So we'll see. Anyway, so I'm not going to be playing songs. I'm going to demonstrate some of the stuff I'm talking about. And let me get my gear up. All right. So, everybody have a good time drinking last night? Yeah? All right. No? Someone said no? Who said no? Steve? Oh, you slept. I went back to the hotel and I worked on this presentation because I wasn't quite sure how it's going to turn out. All right, so I'm Zed Shah, and my talk is weirdly called Dancing About Architecture. And you'll see why. Yeah, you'll see. And thank you for inviting me to Brunel. I've actually been traveling. Wait, first off, I got to warn you. So this is all new presentation gear for me. So normally I do these like stream of consciousness bullet points that I read out, and people are just amazed I can make that work. And I decided after my last conference I was going to change to a whole fancy Impress.js with new gear to do it. So, and then I'm doing the guitar, and I'm doing code about music. So yeah, this is either going to be a total disaster or you're going to think it's fucking awesome. What I don't want is right? So afterwards, come up and tell me if it's like there's things you told me about it. So this is also like the first time I'm announcing some things. There's some stuff that is new. So you guys are actually getting to see like the first presentation style that I'm going to do for the next year or two. Some software I wrote while I was here, like all kinds of things. So, but it may suck. So warning you in advance. So I had 2 weeks. So I went to Ordev, and I was doing a 2-week train trip. And what I did is I went to all these cities. I went to Hamburg, Malmö, Stockholm. It was very dark when I was in Stockholm. The sun only came out after I left. I don't know how people live up there. It was like, seriously, I felt like God hated me. But it was beautiful, like all the architecture and all the little archipelagos and all that. I was in Copenhagen, Berlin, now I'm in Brno. After this, I'm going to go to Prague. And that's all on trains. So I'm really sick of fucking trains. Like, I got to Brno, and I was in my room, and I'm going, right? And it's like 8 hours, so I'm spacing it out, so I only have like 8 hours or 6 hours on the train, so I'm not going for days. So after this, I'm going to go to Prague, I'm going to hang out with Hansa, and then I'm going to fly to Frankfurt, because I'm not going to take another train after Prague. I'm probably not going to take another train for a year, which sucks, because the only way you get around San Francisco is by taking trains, or a car. And what I found was, my alarm is going off, and I did not start my timer. This actually kind of gave me a change of perspective. I like traveling. I like working on new languages. I like learning new things, picking things up. I like assuming things that I know just are wrong and then trying to work with it. Like, for example, who loves PHP? Okay, who's written stuff in PHP? All right. So you've changed your perspective, clearly, after using PHP, right? Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. You try to use some stuff. But also, I find that a lot of times... Sorry, backed up. A lot of times people like get stuck in programming, and they're only doing programming for programming, and they're not doing programming for other things. And what I like to do is actually like come up with some sort of problem I work on, and then try to come up with like some interesting way to approach it or something to do with it. And so while I'm on this train traveling, I get this sort of like interesting idea. And this presentation is basically about this interesting idea and how I came up with it. And it's sort of weird. It's going to have some music stuff. It's going to have some other stuff. But the point is, by changing my perspective, just being on a train, going to a bunch of different countries, I sort of get new creative ideas and new things pop out, right? So just so you know, as he mentioned, I'm the original programming motherfucker. How many people have a t-shirt? You have one T-shirt? Cool. You guys are cool. You too? All right. All you suck. You don't have T-shirts yet. Everyone know about this with Programming Motherfucker? Yeah, programmingmotherfucker.com. Just go there. Programming-motherfucker.com. It's basically a massive joke that sort of blossomed into a real joke movement. It's hilarious. I've actually been invited to conferences to speak at agile development conferences as if I'm serious about Programming Motherfucker. And they don't get it's a joke. So I show up and I just ream them, and I never get invited back, which is why I have to go to other countries to go to talks. So I'm also into writing music and writing code. So I've got this weird sort of set of interests. I've got this interest in programming. I've got this interest in writing. Because I write the books, and then I'm into music. So I'm a professional level writer because I'm selling books. Apparently that makes me a professional. And then I'm a professional level programmer because people have paid me to write their stuff. And then I'm not a professional musician. I'm like a total amateur musician. But it's fun to kind of combine these things. And if you guys want to go, come on. Sit down. Go quick. Don't take your jackets off. Just go, sit down. You can, it's this awesome red hat. Is that required at Red Hat? Do you have to walk around with the fedora and you get demerits if you don't?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah, that sounds like an awesome place to work. He's kidding, of course. So the problem is that my interest, right? I seriously think there are more lesbian unicorns with herpes than people like me. There's nobody that works on, I want to write about code about music. I think there's maybe one or two people. Right? So the tools for me aren't really out there. I have to kind of invent my own tools. I have this weird, unique problem. And there's also this problem that musicians have, where they say writing about music is like dancing about architecture. And it's actually a fucking stupid statement, because dance is an interpretive art. So there's no language to it, so it's entirely interpretive. A dancer could dance about architecture if they wanted to. So whoever said this is just a dickhead. But I actually want to write about music. I want to sit down and write about code that I've written about music. And I keep running into tools that I've used that just don't work. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to combine words and code. And this has been going on for 2 or 3 years. I try all these different things, and nothing seems to work. And I started to realize that this is probably an insanely hard problem to solve. This is a problem that nobody is really interested in, but if I could come up with a simple way, a way that a musician could use. So first off, the target user group are musicians. The average musician, they have older computers. They're not really computer savvy. They're getting better, but the older musicians don't. And then also coming up with a wiki format of some kind is what I want. I've tried LaTeX. I've tried various things, and then so I can put the music in it, and I can produce PDFs, and I can produce HTML. I've been trying to do this for about 3 years. And nothing works. And I have these set of problems where I want to easily publish books about code or music, but it's really hard. So these are the things I've tried, and all of these just really fucking suck. So LaTeX, how many people have used LaTeX? Okay, have you tried to use LaTeX to write about code? Right? It's kind of hard. You got listings. Okay, I use a thing called Dexy that kind of injects. Okay, have you ever tried to use LaTeX to write about code and produce a PDF and an HTML that look both good? So you use HT-LaTeX. I have this jacked sed script that goes through the shitty output that HT-LaTeX outputs and actually replaces HTML tags with using regex. That's just doomed to fail. All they got to do is just one new version, I'm totally hosed, right? I've used LilyPond. Does anyone know what LilyPond is? Yeah, so it's a music typesetting thing. It does really great music typesetting. It's really good. And then that's all it does. It just does music. It's so hard to put it into LaTeX and to put it into other things. And every time I try to compile, it blows up on OS X. I can't get this thing to build. It's the weirdest thing ever. Restructured text. How many people have used restructured text? Okay, so you got restructured text. You want to inject other code or other sources, things like that. You got to indent everything under your blocks. So you have to do this crazy indenting. So I always have to use Jinja with restructured text because I want to include code from other places. Sphinx. People use Sphinx. So Sphinx is really good if you're documenting a software project. But I ran into problems because I'm using it in my book. And just something as simple as I wanted to start my chapters at chapter 0, because it's a book about programmers, so clearly I'm going to have to start at 0, right? Took me trolling through templates, and I had to hack the LaTeX output. It was just gnarly to try to do this one simple thing. But if you write about software, it's great. So there's no tools that fit my tiny little weirdo need, right? And I have some motivation for this. So one of the things that I noticed is there's like a move to do free textbooks. Have you guys seen those where like they want free math books, free biology books, free books like that? There's nobody really pushing for free music textbooks though. And that's one of the problems is that it's kind of expensive to run a music program as it is. In fact, when I'm done, I bought this guitar in Germany, and I'm actually just going to get with Hansa. I'm going to donate this to a school, right? I'm just going to give it to a school. Because kids need, it's actually a little kid's guitar. It's like this tiny little, it's hilarious. I'm going to be playing it, you'll see. And you need to donate stuff to get kids in some areas to have a music program. They can't go and buy instruments. There's actually music drive programs to get kids instruments. And then the music books that they have to do, music books tend to be kind of expensive. And the music book industry is, like very little of the music books are on the Kindle. There's not a lot of music books that are available for, they're out of print. So there's some old books that you're supposed to get, like Jamie Ebersole, there's these books, and they're kind of just out of print. So you gotta go on eBay, dude's selling them for like $300. So there's these books that are actually free. The US Navy has made a series of books on music theory. And they're like really practical music theory books. And then they're basically free, but you get these like 7th generation lithography copy, like where they photocopy it 8 times, and that's what's on Scribd. And then the Scribd guys have translated it, so it's all like, really awful looking. So I would like to do some free music textbooks. If it was really easy for musicians to do free music textbooks, or maybe if I can get people to help me translate the US Navy music textbooks, then there could be these free textbooks for kids and for adults, whoever you want. I have another reason why I want to do this. I have 3 different ways I'm writing and making my books. I used Sphinx, and that wasn't good. Then I used LaTeX, and that wasn't so good, because I had to change all the HTML output. So I kind of want to improve all these things. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to get out of doing programming for programming's sake. What I want to do is I want to kind of like do code, and I want it to, how do I explain this? I want to basically write code about other things. I don't want to just write code to write code. So I'm going to give you an example. So what I like to do is I like to hack music theory. So how many people have done ear training? Ear training. Okay, so basically, I'm going to show you this really quick. How many people are totally bored? You guys are so quiet. Is it just too early? All right, so there's this guy, Steve Vai. I'm sure most of you have heard about Steve Vai, right? Who knows Steve Vai? All right, cool. I'm not totally lost. All right, so Steve Vai has this ear training method, and what he does is basically you record yourself, okay? And in the recording you go minor third, and then you go major second, major second, third. So you do that in a recording, and then you take it, put it on your phone, right? Or just sit around and you walk around and you try to guess it before you say it. So it's on the recording, and what you do is you just sort of like passively listen, and you hear the 2 notes, and then you go minor third, and then it goes minor third. So the thing is, I did that, and I kept making mistakes because I actually didn't know the intervals. So that's the first problem. The second problem is I'm a programmer. I'm like, I can fucking automate this. So yeah, this is gonna be fun. So basically, the first thing I did is there's this thing called PySynth. And so PySynth is really cool. Basically, it's using just basically math to create like a little synth that's kind of like that. And I can pass it notes. So I have a series of notes that I'm going to do. And then I'm going to go through and just like come up with like numeric note values for them so I can reuse those later. All right, next. Oh, he's got the password. For those of you who are entirely bored by me, you can actually... You can go on the internet and you can get away from this. So next, I have a series of intervals. So these are the names of the intervals. This is what I want to be said. And notice like I have to spell tritone, sort of weird. Okay. And then the next thing is a blank page. Hold on a sec.
Sorry.
There we go. So then the next one is I have a way of calculating like random note pairs. And actually, let me just a sec. He's busy anyways. Let me regenerate that, see if it comes back. No, it's busted. So on that slide should be these two functions. So can people figure out what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be using the Apple say command to say those intervals. Okay? And then I have random note pairs, so I'm going to pick random intervals, right? I'm just going to pick them randomly, like I'll pick one and another, and I'll reverse engineer what the interval name was. So that's what that second function is. And then after that, I'm going to play the interval. So how it works is you basically write out a wave file. And when you write out the wave file, you just use, where's it at? Play, and that plays the wave file. So really simple script. This took me like, maybe a couple hours. It was totally fun. And I'm going to hack music theory with it. So here we go. Let's try and do it. Pull this out. Anybody?
Major sixth.
Were you right? Yeah, you're good. I couldn't figure it.
Minor seventh.
Minor seventh. That's hard, right? Yeah. Okay, let's see. Anybody?
Major second.
Major second. Okay, so see, I need to practice apparently. So that's like kind of the music theory hacks I do. I have like a whole bunch of others. You're going to see some more. And this is the kind of thing I'd like to write about. Like I'd like to blog about this, where I go, hey, here's a way to practice music, like your ear training. I got this little Python script. You can run it, and it'll do stuff. But I can't really find anything to let me do it. So these files just sort of like sit on my laptop, and I use them. And there's this. I could probably like revolutionize all of music theory with it. No, not at all. So then there's this other project I like to use called Dexy. And Dexy, what it is it's not like Sphinx or LaTeX or any of those things. It's sort of like a meta system. So you could use it to run Sphinx or LaTeX or just about anything else. And I use it for most of my books because it's really good at taking code from random places and then injecting it into my documents. So I've been using it for a while, and then really recently Dexy got really awesome. Like, this is how awesome it got. It can run an EC2 instance. Put your software on the EC2 instance, connect to it with a document, like how to use this website, how to use this API. Run the website, use Phantom.js to get screenshots, and then put the screenshots in your document. So that way when you deploy, you rerun your documents like they're tests, and then it's got the screenshots there that tells you if there was an error. So basically your documents are live. Like if it's boned, you're boned. Your documents are screwed. And then you don't have to go back and like update them as much. You don't have to change the screens. They just sort of adapt. You can do it for like REST interfaces. You can do it for, basically the big thing is it will run code and it will run the outputs and it will inject them in all your things and it will produce any of the stuff you need. So recently though, it added plugin systems and a better format and all these other things. And I'm on this train going from Copenhagen, I think, and I go, oh, well, I could redo my presentation software with that. So here's this presentation. So that's all you write. It's kind of like a make file, but what you do is you do extensions or you do others. And this is YAML. So if you know YAML, it's pretty common. It's in like Python, it's in Ruby. And this project's in Python. And basically, I just say, okay, so I want markdown files to go through Jinja and then the markdown processor. And they depend on the source. And then I make a source target. And I say, okay, source is like text files and MIDI and markdown files and HTML. And if I do pig, that's pigments, which gives me source colorization. IDEO is a thing I actually wrote called Idiopode. And what it does is it lets you do sections of code with comments. So you put the code comment in, and I'll show you that in a sec. And it basically will let you go, first you write a blah, 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 and then you write a blah, 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 and a blah, blah, blah. But it's actually one file, so it can run. So that way your code is separate from your text. And then the result of that is this presentation actually is using that. So I can show you that really quick. So basically, I'm sort of hacking this up, but it's Markdown. And in between it, I put the Impress.js. Anyone use Impress.js? It's just a JavaScript library that flies stuff around your screen. That's what's making it all fancy. And this is all I do. I just basically put some Markdown in there. I got a little template that puts it together. I run Dexy, and it finds all the code for this presentation. It plugs it in, does all my stuff. I'm good to go. So I'm hacking on this thing, right? And it's really, really easy. And I think one of the reasons why it's really easy is the author, Dr. Anna Nelson, actually wrote it for making repeatable science papers. So I think a lot of people here probably have, it's a university town, so everyone's worked with some professor, right? Are they really awesome at computers? No, right? Even the computer science professors are not awesome at computers, okay? So you want to make repeatable science papers. The repeatable part's not super difficult, except for that you got to work with a bunch of weird tools. You got some MATLAB, you got some SPSS, you've got some R, you've got to pull things from websites, you got to pull stuff down. So it's got to be able to build. But the other thing is that scientists are not programmers. So to solve this problem, you have the same problem I do. Musicians are not programmers. If I want to make a music publishing system, I have to actually target musicians. So I'm targeting this very difficult group. Scientists aren't programmers. So the end result is a very usable system, but still very flexible for producing science and papers. And what I've known, for a while, everyone agree with this? Solving hard problems makes it easier to solve simpler ones, right? But I think a lot of times people don't. They want to just kind of do the same problems over and over. I remember my trip. I'm on my trip. I'm sitting there, skylines are going by. I've got this, totally open mind. And then I go, holy crap. I could use DEXI to solve my music publishing problem. So on the train, 2 train rides, I think from Stockholm to Copenhagen and Copenhagen to Berlin, I created this thing called Orchestrix. And it's actually, I didn't really create it. I just used DEXI and a YAML file. That's how, so that's my hacking. And I think I wrote a Jinja script. So yeah, so it's sort of funny. Basically, there is a woman, she had a PhD in math, and she's Hungarian, Valeria Denz, I think. And she also became a dancer. And she came up with a form, a style of dance she called orchestics. And I thought it was funny that it sounded more musical. So all the douchebags are you can't write about music, it's like dancing about architecture. And I'm oh, well, I'll just name my thing about this dancing thing, and they won't even know. So I throw a K and an X in, because nobody had that yet. Everyone had other things that were orchestra or something, but nobody had a K and an X. And basically, within a space of about an hour or so, I had this website up. So let me show you this website. And yeah. So here we go. Or not. Give me a sec. That's what I wanted. So this is actually coming from an RST file. So I'll show you the RST file in a second. But what's interesting, or what's really awesome about it, is it's really just restructured text and this music notation called ABC. So ABC is kind of like a simplified lily pond, is a way to put it. It's very simple, but it does pretty much everything you need for music notation. And I just wrote this simple demo. So this is the YAML file I had to write, and I'll go through that in a sec. And then I wrote some Jinja stuff. So this is a ABC tune. So that's how you write an ABC tune. And basically you just write the notes, and how long they should be, how long they should last is a number based on the time interval, and then you can set the name of the song and all those other things. And if you're a musician, this makes sense. People who aren't musicians, this is blah, 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 blah. Right. Oh, by the way, if you're doing code presentations and there's musicians, this is what they think your code looks like. Right. So where's the guy that was really good at the ear training? Oh, there you go. What do you think of this? Great. It's good, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. I asked him because he got them mostly right. You didn't get any right, so you don't get asked. What do you think? Yeah, okay, all right. So I'll show you how it's put together, right? Now, keep in mind, I'm describing this thing that most of you probably aren't interested in at all, right? How many people are interested in my awesome music publishing code fantastic thing? Oh, okay, good. All right, so I'm going to start charging for it after this presentation. I got to start charging for it. I got a laugh. Finally, one laugh. Oh, my God. So basically, that's what it produces. And that's actually an SVG file. So you can style that with CSS. So you could actually go in and you could say you wanted to be really annoying and you wanted to make all the notes red. You could do it. I don't know how, because SVG to me just looks like ass. I got no idea how you'd style it. But I told some guy this. He's like, oh, cool, I can style it. And he showed me. I'm like, wow, okay, that's awesome. Interestingly enough, if you have ad block, I think I have ad block on this. It'll actually, if you hover, it'll sometimes show the block it. So I think people are actually using SVG as the new Flash ad snooping stuff. Yeah. So then, basically, this is how you build it. One simple command. That's it. And the PDF version, let me open up the output. Looks like this. And that's from one source document, one RST document. I have colorized code, I have the ABC, and I have the actual music. So how did I do this? And remember, it's kind of like I'm just using stuff that other people wrote and putting this together, and this is a simple prototype. So I'm not wasting time writing algorithms, and I'm not sitting here writing my own software. I'm just using whatever is there so I can get the thing done. And this is the basic text. Let me just jack this up a bit. It's just RST. How many people have seen RST? Yeah, it's like a super strict markdown. So for example, if I did this, it's an error. Oh, does anyone know about, who uses Vim? Okay, get Syntastics. Syntastics is awesome. It basically, whatever file you're running, it goes, oh, I know about the file, and it runs it through whatever lint tool you happen to have, and then it puts error messages. So if I go like this, it says down, tighter underline too short. So it's an RST thing. And basically, this is how I include code. So I have a couple little Jinja macros I wrote so they could select between HTML or PDF based on the output. And I just go, yeah, I want the docs YAML there, and I want the actual source of this file there, and I want that sample ABC is there. So these are just little Jinja commands that Dexy gives you. And how you tag it is in the Dexy output, you use this key, matches what's in your YAML, on those targets. You just use that key. So you do with whatever filter path you did. So that way, if you have one filter that's, say, running Python code, and another filter that's doing pigment styling, you can do them separately so they don't clash with each other. So you can toss in, next we write this code to talk to the web service, and here's the results, and then you run that script. So you can have two separate ones, so they're unique. And this is just how you include one of those images. And I'll probably smooth this out, but basically, this is just using the RST output you have. And then I'm using a little bit of Jinja templates to pull out the extension, whether it's SVG or EPS. So from that, to do this, I basically made one YAML file. So this is the start of it, and I have some tags, or some targets. And notice it's actually running the ABC for me. So something else I can do is I can run the ABC file, produce the song, and then it'll make a MIDI file for me. I could use another filter that makes MIDI, and then convert that to WAV and embed it in the HTML so that people can hit play and actually listen to it. So that's really important for people trying to learn music. I have this random assets, so it gets included. And then I have all my code. And the way to read this is I got Python code that goes through pigments for LaTeX. That's that first one. Python code that goes through pigments for HTML, and so on and so forth. And then you can set options on all the things. This is just straight up plain old YAML. And then this is the target for doing HTML. There was a bug at the time I wrote this, so I had to specify the examples directory has its own RST too. But then basically I have, all RST files go through Jinja, and then they go through RST to HTML. And then it needs code, songs, assets, some RST, HTML arguments, and then I don't want it to go recursive. I'm just going to stay in that one directory. And then this is how you do the LaTeX. So pretty much the same thing, except for now I want to include a style file that I'm going to use to put the pigments in. And then I've got RST to LaTeX, and I'm using Zatex, which is better for international character sets. It's actually the one that will let you use Unicode everywhere, and better fonts. It uses just the fonts on your system instead of that jacked Capath-C thing that nobody could ever get working. And if I show you the style file, this is another nice feature of it. So you know how pigments, you have to run a command? How many people have used pigments? So pigments, you run this command that shits out this massive style, depending on you have HTML or you want the Tango. So basically, Dexy just does that for me. So I say, hey, Dexy, inject the tango thing for pigments here. And it spits it out. If you look in the output, there we go. Isn't LaTeX awesome? This is just great. This is how you get like color letters. I think this is actually one letter. Like, I'm not kidding. This is... And actually, let me just for fun, let me load up oh, it's probably deep in there. But yeah, the LaTeX file that gets produced is like gnarly. So this is, in the simplest form, it's just Dexy driving ABC notation and RST. But it's pulling in so many other things. I've got Jinja, I can actually run the ABC files, I can run Python code, I can do all sorts of crazy stuff with it. And I'm on the train, and I'm just like, holy crap, I just solved this problem I had for the last 3 years because I'm on this train just sort of watching stuff go by, and then suddenly I get the flash of insight. Hey, douchebag, that thing you're using to make your jacked presentation could be used to solve this problem you've had for 2 years. And I'm starting to look at this from the point of view of I want to start doing things that are less about programming and more about programming to actually construct things and build things. And the way to kind of put it is I've made a documentation system, or Dexy helps me make a documentation system to write about code about other things. I think that's the fundamental difference, is most of the doc systems that I was using before, they let me write about code. But it was hard to write about code about other things because I would have to manually build all the other things. So if I wanted to write code about a REST service, I had to manually run the REST service code and inject it in. If I wanted to write code about, say, graphics, I had to actually run the graphics and put them in. If I want to write code about creating websites, I have to actually inject the screenshots in. Dexy does all that crap for me. And I think that's the key difference between it and other things. And one of the other reasons why I want to do it, like I said, is I write these Python hacks for music theory. So it's really weird. I don't know anyone that does this. And one thing I've noticed when I tell people I do this, especially guitarists, is every guitarist is better than me, and I don't fucking care. Right? It's weird. So I find that a lot of people who play guitar, basically, they're just douchebag assholes. Has anyone been online in a forum with guitar guys, and they're bitching about Fender versus Gibson? Or they're like, dude, you fucking suck. Or the shredder, he's like, boo! And you're like, what notes are in a major 13 chord? A what? Oh, hey, how does the cycle of fifths go? Huh? Right? So the thing that you run into when you're trying to be an intellectual guitar player, and also I suck, and I'm older. I didn't learn to play guitar until I was 35, so I'm okay, I'm good at writing, I'm good at code. So hey, if I combine writing and code, it'll help me figure out music. And that's actually what happens. But I go and I tell these guitar players, and they're kind of dude, just use your mind, yo. I'm I am using my mind. I'm using the computer to help me, though. Dude, this is lame. I just sit there and I play. I just play. I'm no, you don't just play. I went to the school and had this dude, he's yeah, I'm just kind of natural, I just play. And then I came in at midnight once because I had to prepare for the next day, and his ass was in a studio practicing scales like mad. Right? That's the thing, is you see people who say they're just naturals. Bullshit. They practice. So every guitarist is better than me, but there's very few guitarists who write and also do code, so maybe that gives me some kind of advantage. Maybe I can figure out some simpler way to do things, and that's what I've been doing for a while. Also, if you can't tell, I really hate guitar players. No offense to the guitar players, but seriously, they're the only group of people other than programmers who I'll put some song up that's not even the song, just me goofing off, and I will get an email. They're you fucking suck, get off the internet. And I'm I'm a fucking beginner, you asshole, And they're oh my God. If you take the worst IRC troll you could have, right? Well, you know that dude. Someone shows up and go, how do I get Python to go through a list? Fucking RTFM, noob. Okay. Guitar players are way worse than that guy on any given day. They're just awful. They have first off, if you don't play their kind of music, they think you suck. It doesn't matter what happens to do. And the other thing is, if you hadn't been playing since you were 10, just immediately you suck. It's kind of if you didn't grow up speaking Japanese, you just can't really speak Japanese. If you didn't grow up speaking Dutch, you could never learn to speak Dutch. They think that's how guitar works. And they go, oh, if you didn't start playing when you're 5, well, you fucking blow, yo. I'm I don't care. I'm having fun. So what I do is, to circumvent that whole scene, is I build guitars. So this is an interesting thing. Keep this in mind. You ever want to learn to play guitar? Talk to some guy, just go, well, I kind of like playing guitars because I build them. You build them? It's like I suddenly leveled up. I got the Super Mario mushroom, right? Like, oh, yeah. Well, how do you build a guitar? They don't even know how a capacitor works to alter the tone of the guitar and the volume. They don't know any of that shit. And it's fun, too. It's fun to hack a guitar. Actually, I'd like to hack that thing. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example. I'm actually going to demonstrate the example, try to do this. And to show you this example, you don't necessarily have to know about music. I'm going to try and demo this to you so you don't really know how to know about music. But let me see if I can find it. All right, so this is the code I'm working with here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to load up this thing. All right. So what I came up with was this idea to mess with jazz guys. So jazz guys are like, we don't play pentatonics. But if you study jazz theory, there's a book by Mark Levine where he has a whole section on the pentatonics jazz players actually play. And a pentatonic, right, is basically just 5 notes in a sequence. Oh, and this came out. They came out wrong. And basically, there should be like an image of them right here, but my thing screwed up. So it's just like 5 notes out of the diatonic scale. That's all it is. So what I wanted to do is I want to say, well, hey, what if I could come up with 2 kinds of pentatonics? What would they be? Because if you go through the permutations of all the notes, there's really just 2 pentatonics. You can do one with one note different than the other. And so what I did is I wrote this Python script that you see right there that goes through all the possible pentatonics you could do. One with like 1 note difference. So I get 2, and this is in every single key. So I'll run this really quick. So let me see. Let's do Python. Oh, wrong side, wrong project. All right. So now they're out of order because it's a set, so a set is going to be sorted. But that's all the pentatonics I need to learn. So my goal here is to come up with the bare minimum shit I need to do to sound like I can play jazz. Okay? And there's a reason, because I like to play really fast chords. And like really fast chords and lots of notes just sounds awful. Really fast chords kind of sounds awful, but only when I play it. So these are basically the notes, and they're out of order. So now I've got a set of notes. And now what I want to do is go through every chord that I tend to play with all the extra notes and the upper partials and things like that, and then go through all the scales and see which ones fit. Now, how most other musicians do this is they sit down with a chord, and they go, this one? No. This one? No. This one? No. And a programmer goes, fuck that. I'm going to use a for loop. Right? So here I have, for example, so the way to look at this is the notes in a C major chord are these first 4, C major 7 chord. But a lot of times you'll play with like extra notes depending on the melody and how you want it to sound. So those notes just make it sound a little prettier. Right? So this is a D minor 7. But then you might get these notes. And then this is the G7, and you might have those notes, and so on. So to demonstrate, I'm actually going to play one of these for you. This is my favorite chord. It apparently doesn't want to work.
Connected to the... It's connected to a computer.
Oh. Thank you. See, I was being a musician there. All right, so let's try this one. I like this one. Here's another one I like. Here's a simple one. Right? Here's that second one. Here's that. That's this one. Right? Those are nice, right? This is this one. Now there's other chords. There's ones that are like sounds eh. Okay, so I got these chords set up. And then I write this function here. And all this function is going to do is just go through every chord and every scale and see, okay, there's these notes that are possibly in the chord, there's these notes in the scale, do they match? And I got a tolerance level. I could say like, okay, I really only care if 4 of the 5 notes fit. And then once I do that, I reduce it to something that I can print out. And then I run it twice, one for the dominant scales and one for the other ones. And then I produce that. And what that tells me is on one chord, I can play a dominant G, pentatonic. And I can also play so I can do different ones like that. I can do So what this does is then it gives me a practice regime. So I turn these into like little index cards and I just practice through all these different types of chords I can play. And what this produces is there's some ABC, and that's kind of like a sampling of what you can play on those different chords. Now the interesting thing is some of these don't sound so good. Like some of them sound kind of weird. But the music theory, like the theory says, oh, well, you can totally play this. But when you actually play it, you're kind of like, it sounds like crap. So you have to like flavor it with your actual ear, right? Or maybe my ear's just not sophisticated enough. So I'll give you an example. One of the things, look at this pattern. So what's the one thing you see you can play all the time? You can play a G, right? G, 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 G. All right, so if I do a jazz, I'm going to do some simple thing like this. I'll do it over here instead. Let's get a beat. I kind of need to warm up, so hold on. All right, ready? Those speakers are awesome, right? Wait, okay, so I'm going to see how fast I can go. I'm totally going to suck at this. Hold on. Nah, I can go faster. It's really fast, actually. Let's go a little quicker. All right, ready? You have to tell, just to go like, no, that's it. Okay, ready? Ready? Faster? Faster? Oh, shit. All right, here we go. Woo! That's too fast. All right, let's go faster. Hold on. And distortion. This is my favorite. Oh, I didn't make it faster. All right, here we go. There's no distortion in that. Hold on. No way, I can't do it. Wait. I did it almost at the max this morning. All right, let's back that off. Let's record that. Thank you. fun. All right, how much time I got? 5 minutes. All right, here we go. Ready? All right, so we're going to demo this. Okay, so that's what I'm going to demo. All right, so the code said I could do G, right? If I could type my damn password, I could show you. So G, what it's basically saying is I can do, and this would be A that I'm going to play. So I could do this kind, and I could do this kind. So let's try it. I'm just going to play it. We'll see if it comes. You can tell me if it sounds good. Of course, I'm confounding it by actually being the one playing it, but we'll see. Yeah, it doesn't seem to clash. Okay, so let's try the other one. Yeah, nothing really clashing. So there the math worked out, but here's one that you kind of see. It also says I can do this one A. Now this one sounds sort of like shit. My apologies. Doesn't kind of fit, right? This sounds really weird, right? So that's an example of where the theory says I can play that, but you'd have to really be good to play it. So I can't play it. So that's kind of the way I use Python to hack music theory and figure out what I'm going to do. And then what you see is now I'm able to write about it, and then I have this PDF of the same output. And all of that came from just one RST file and a couple ABC files and the Python code, and it even runs the Python code for me. So this is the result of actually running the Python code for me. I got 2 minutes, which is perfect because I'm almost done. So here's some crazy ideas we sort of talked about already. Music blogging. There's not really any place for musicians to blog. Like putting up music on WordPress kind of is hard, you know. So I could do a little simple system like that. Music publishing. I think right now, like publishing music is really bad. On the Kindle, it's really weird because like the music comes out, the notation comes out really kind of jacked and moved around. So I can improve that. Another one is free music textbooks, like I mentioned, or just music textbooks in general. And then something I want to explore is algorithmic music theory. So right now, when you see people writing code about music, they describe the way everyone does music now. But I don't see a lot of people going, well, what if we just like run code to see what's possible and try it out? Like see if like we can expand music theory or simplify it by just writing code and analysis and surveys and having people listen to stuff. But ultimately, this presentation is not really about orchestrics and music and DEXY. It's kind of like about creativity and programming. Like, I got on a train and basically came here. I was going to do this original talk about C and Ruby and Python and how to teach it. It was boring as fuck. And instead, I thought, I'm going to fucking play guitar and show a bunch of programmers music, right? And it was totally different, and I just sort of like serendipity stumbled on this software to do it. So take away from this the idea, if you just change your perspective, go on a trip, use a different programming language, come up with a problem that you have no idea how to solve, something like that, you can get new creative ideas, like this weird music publishing system that I'm going to use to publish stuff. And, you know, just go on a train trip sometime. All right, thank you. So we got time for questions? Little? All right, real quick question for me. Who liked the presentation? Okay, good. All right. I normally get more laughs, so I'll have to adjust. Okay. Please come and talk to me after, because this is new for me doing this presentation style. So come up and talk to me after if you like. There's things you didn't like and stuff. All right, and you can ask me questions after. We're out of time. So, all right. Thank you very much.